Well, in the world of the WWE, they managed to, I don't know, they time traveled or did they fly around the earth so that they reversed the gravitational orbit or whatever the case? Because
Hulkamania.
did they had to pre-tape SmackDown or part of SmackDown, or how did they work this deal?
They pre-taped and we heard nothing about it. So I don't know.
That used to be a big deal. It's like, oh my God, they pre-taped SmackDown. Here's exactly what happened. Nobody said a goddamn word.
Yeah.
It's like if you pre-tape a wrestling program now in 2023 and in the forest, does the Pope get in the woods with a bear who's Catholic? That's the question everybody's asking.
It's certainly a question.
Anyway, so on SmackDown on Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, but we don't know when it was recorded, we're going to go through a bit of this briefly and get to the main attraction of the weekend, which are for the WWE fans, which was Night of Champions. But I must admit, I wanted to see, and I did watch, the U.S. title match, Austin Theory against our friend Sheamus, because I'm not really a Sheamus fan. His working style, except when he's in one of the bangers, and his appearance is off-putting to me, but he works hard, and he's a name. And this was a nice struggle, and they started working solid. And even that went 2 minutes to the break. And they came back and went a little while longer, and I got distracted by Harley Quinn needing some belly rubs. She rolled straight over on her back and did the dead bug thing and then had her little fluffy tail wagging. And that was more entertaining than the match, but I came back to it as they were hitting some false finishes. Theory got one, Sheamus got one. Sheamus got the now 25 beats of the Bowery. And then suddenly they're having this match, and then Pretty Deadly hit ringside and beat up Ridge and Butch, the other brawling bangers. And then Sheamus got one of them for 10 beats, and in Theory schoolboyed him 1, 2, 3 and rolled out. And I wrote, well, that was a finish. Our boy Theory continues to look great, but it's in this environment where you think, boy, if this stuff was actually exciting, he'd be really good, don't you?
Yeah, I'm not into... Again, I think it's just because I've seen Sheamus so much over the years that I think I need to just not see him for a while. But again, he starts off the show here with Theory, and it's fine for what it was. I get a kick out of Butch at ringside. I know everyone misses Pete Dunne, but I actually think the character works for him, and it makes him stand out a little bit. You brought up the beats of the Bowery. I don't really think Sheamus would fit in with the Bowery Boys, or the Dead End Kids, or the East Side Kids.
I was about to say,
or the little tough
East
guys.
Side Kids.
No, I don't think he would fit in.
No.
Maybe Butch, though.
But he does bear some passing resemblance to Leo Gorsey.
Who, Sheamus or Butch?
Well, either one of them, really.
Leo Gorsey at the beginning or Leo Gorsey at the end?
Leo Gorsey's IQ. So...
Which one's David Gorsey?
Well, but now, then who was the other Gorsey? There was another Gorsey I'm thinking about.
The father. Leo Gorsey's father was in a bunch of the Bowery Boy films, too.
Well, I may be also thinking about fucking Justice Neil Gorsuch.
Oh, I usually get Leo Gorsey and Neil Gorsuch confused all the time.
He could easily be confused for a member of the East Side Kids.
I heard they call Brett Kavanaugh Hunts Hall.
And his sidekick, Heinz Ketchup. So anyway, we go to the Bloodline locker room. And Paul is telling the Usos, since you guys won't be at Night of Champions, you're invited to next week's 1,000-day celebration of Roman's reign on SmackDown here next Friday night. And Jimmy, I think it's Jimmy. I still have problems sometimes.
Jimmy's the long-haired one now.
Oh, God damn it. They've all got long hair.
Well, no, Jay kind of has like a shorter, longer hairstyle.
Shorter, longer?
It's
he looks more like a poodle instead of a Pomeranian.
Okay.
Well, I think Jimmy was the one that was not thrilled and wanted to go eat. And Roman says, sit down. And he don't want to sit down. And Roman dares him to do something. So I whooped y'all's ass as kids and I'll do it now. You're going to obey me. So there's trouble in paradise here. Thank goodness the Usos are not going to be in Saudi Arabia. There could be issues. Then we got Raquel and Shotzi against Bayley and Io. We got a package of Seth Rollins and AJ Styles fight, who are going to fight over the world. I'm now officially calling it World Heavyweight Championship number 3. So we can differentiate between all the other ones. And then it was good to see that Ashante, Adonis, and B-Fab and Flop Dollar are still there. Because we've been deprived of that greatness for weeks now. And I was afraid something had happened to him. But we didn't get to see Flop Dollar wrestle. It was Ashante against Cameron Grimes. And Cameron won again with the cave-in 1, 2, 3. And then Baron Von Corbin laid him out with one shot from behind. It was almost a good segment because it got Cameron over and just a good win for him over this other stooge. But they couldn't let him get out of there without the most non-over former main event guy in the history of wrestling laying him out.
Did you see the interview he did before the match, Cameron Grimes?
Yeah, he's still going to the moon.
He is, but it's just so, because now he's just a clear-cut babyface.
Yeah.
It's almost hokey now. And he's
cheesy.
Smiling nonstop. And he's so happy.
He's another victim of the Smile Patrol.
Yeah, I really liked him. I mean, he's great in the ring. I really like him in the ring, but I don't know. I wish he wasn't so WWF-ized right now.
Well, remember it got that way in NXT because the reason why that he got our interest in NXT was because he was a heel. B, he was full-fledged. He had all the body hair and the fucking long beard, and he looked like, I don't know, the illegitimate nephew of Outlaw Billy Black or whatever. And he would just, and he was fun because he has personality and he can talk and he's got a different style of working, but it fits him. And he can do shit, right? And we liked him. And then they slowly switched him babyface and made him more and more silly and over the top. And then put him in silly shit. And then shaved him several times in several different ways. And now he's still cleaner than he was at the start. He's got a little hair back. But now it has to be the silliness, which Cameron Grimes being silly is putting a hat on a hat. He's got an element of silliness when he's being serious, but if he's being serious, the silliness seems natural instead of silly. But when he's trying to be silly, then we've sillified that whole fucking thing, haven't we?
Yeah, although I will say they showed that replay of when he beat Corbin. You know, it was just a one move and then he pinned him. That thing he does, that stomp, is so impressive.
The cave-in.
I mean, Corbin's a big guy, and he hit it and it looked great. That is such an impressive move.
And then, well, he hit it on Ashante here, and the only thing you got to watch out for, the guys taking it, I think some of them shy back on it a little bit, and if they go back too far, before he gets any kind of push off with his feet, because last week with Corbin, he landed beside the guy and on his feet, but this week he went backwards and he kind of took a flat back bump on old Adonis's fucking legs or feet. So there's a margin for error there with where they're coming down. It's not the contact of the move, it's the fucking landing that they got to watch out for. Anyway, so the 9:00 hour, they decided would be the good thing to put Bianca in the ring for her in-ring interview about her title match at Night of Champions with Oscar. And, again, loved Bianca's match in Puerto Rico with Io and the crowd and the whole thing. It was great all the way around. I don't know that I like hearing her smile and talk. I kind of zoned out until Oscar hit the ring from behind and tried to break her arm, and they had a big pull apart. That looked energetic. They had some friskiness to that part of the segment, but otherwise, Bianca did a promo, and here came Oscar.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that. I will say that I think whenever that day comes, once Bianca turns heel, I think she's really going to turn it on the mic. Right now, she's doing what she can as the cheesy babyface that WWE wants her to be. I think one day, whenever that day comes, when she's a heel and they're screaming and crying out there, I don't know what's going on. But one day when that day comes, she's already got the in-ring. I think then we're going to see the promo.
Everybody has to be so happy. And I've heard Vince telling people, that's why I think Magnum TA, probably his career would have been ruined if he'd have gone to work for Vince in 1986, because he'd have wanted him to smile. Smile, though your heart is breaking. Raquel Gonzalez looks so cool, and now she's smiling all the time. I know baby faces traditionally are supposed to smile, but not to the point of being having laughing gas blown up their ass. Anyway, speaking of having gas blown up your ass, LA Knight wrestled Booger. And there was whatever the issue was between them. At least now they've decided, after they've literally beaten him with everybody that can possibly beat him, now they've decided to start giving LA Knight wins on television. It's almost like Tony Khan's booking this one. And the Street Sweepers were out there for color commentary. And old Boog, as an athlete, he looks great. And he looks like he's got a ton of potential as an athlete in the ring. But his name is horrible, and his gear is horrible, and his gimmick is horrible. And the fact that all he does is act like a complete idiot. And he gets beat by the people that can't beat anybody else. So what are you supposed to think? Brian, what's a boy to do? LA Knight gouged the eyes and hit his finish. So he beat the guy that can never beat anybody. And then cut a promo on the Street Sweepers, even though LA Knight has no part. So now is LA Knight in a program with a tag team, even though he has no partner and can't get along with the one that he had?
Yeah, I mean, it was last week or the week before, I was disappointed that they put him in a program where he was going to be in a tag team with Boogs. Now they had the breakup in the match already, but he's still feuding with the tag team. We'll see. I mean, it's intriguing now watching the ascent or the staying the same of LA. I don't know what to even describe this anymore. He's over.
The people want to like him.
They chant his name when he says it. Not chant his name, but they say his name with him. They repeat his name with him when he says it. They like him. They react to him. Yet this keeps happening. I don't know. He's not in their plans the way we think he should be, I guess.
AJ Styles versus Karrion Kross with Scarlett Boudreaux, Borden, Lizzie Borden. What's her fucking last name? Now I've kayfabed myself out of it. Boudreaux or Bordeaux?
Scarlett Bordeaux.
Okay, well there you go.
I think so.
That's like the wine. Anyway, here's my comment. After the entrance, Kross is fucking done. Remember when he was interesting? And it goes down to the hair, I think. I don't know why. But at one point he was interesting and seemed like something. And now he looks good physically. He does shit. It's just, it's boring. What's missing? What's happening here?
I really don't know. Again, he was presented as a top guy in NXT before he got hurt that first time. And I think a match with Keith Lee. And then he came back and they still presented him as a top guy. Was that with Cole? I forget. They brought him up to the main roster. They certainly have a thing, him and Scarlett, the whole little show. They look cool sitting there every week when they show them sitting in the crowd or whatever.
Is it that people have heard those promos that he's just monotone, droning on, it doesn't connect because it's so phony? Is it the hair that made him look not intimidating?
What's his motivation? What's he going for? What's he trying to do? They keep doing these promos promising all sorts of things. Nothing happens, but he keeps losing, so you have no reason to invest in them. She looks great. She comes out there and does the whole thing, but again, she looks great, and then her guy keeps losing, so what does it even matter? You could push someone if you want to push them, and you could just beat them every week if you want to beat them. The thing that makes it questionable is that they give them these small little moments of promo time where they do the whole It's almost like a magician and his assistant. Like he's like doing the magic show and she's there, distracting you.
Yes. And she's waving her arms and pointing at the fucking tablecloth.
But then they lose. Every week.
Yeah.
So how could you care? There's no reason to care.
Well, they did a nice Cody and Brock package, but it's obviously all things that we have conversed about before. And then the main event of SmackDown. Yes, folks, that's the whole network television program except for the main event segment, which, of course, is an interview. Not even an interview, but a talk show segment. The KO show, Kevin Owens. Owens and Sammy are going to team up on this one, and their guests are going to be Roman and Solo. Here's the thing. Besides why does everybody have an irregularly scheduled intermittent talk show segment with a cheesy, fake-looking set with chairs or palm fronds or balloons or whatever the fuck? How does this happen? How do they just take over the program? Because Piper's Pit was a thing for 4-minute segments tops 40 years ago. That now, that just everybody, instead of just writing down an interview with so-and-so, well, let's give them a talk show. All of these people do not need talk shows, Jerry.
Again, what is it? A talk show. There was Roger's Corner, and then it became Victory Corner, and then it became Piper's Pit. And you said it was 4 minutes, maybe 4 minutes. It was maybe 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes. It was in and out. It was quick. It wasn't with the fans behind them. You could hear what they're saying. They weren't.
We did it in the WCW in the 80s. Funk's Grill, the Louisville Sluggers. 3 minutes, live interview with the fucking talent.
In and out. Then at some point it became like everyone needs an in-ring, and they're called talk shows now. It's a talk show in the middle of this show, and they do these. And sometimes you forget, but like so many of these different people, like Miz has Miz TV, and Owens has this, and I think Christian had something at one point, and Jericho had something at one point. So many various different people that just, here's my talk show. And it's not like Piper's Pit appearing every week for 3 years, 4 years. Just random. It's the KO show. And my guest is going to be, naturally, the person I'm going to wrestle this weekend that I hate. What?
Well, yeah, can you think about the Rock and Roll Express being given a talk show on Crockett's TV and sitting down with the Midnight Express or the Four Horsemen to have a chat for 15 minutes?
The day before War Games.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's what was allegedly going to happen here. But then Paul Heyman, that's what his name is, came out with 2 of the 3 world heavyweight title belts and says Roman doesn't come out when you want, but he comes out when he wants, and suddenly the Usos music plays, and Paul is confused because this wasn't supposed to happen. And the Usos get in the ring, and they have the argument or confrontation, whatever descriptive term you want to use. But basically, Owens tells the Usos that Sammy's been right all along about how Roman treats them and how they deserve better. And he may be the head of the table, but they're the heart of the table, and he's using them. And he made an impassioned speech to try to wake the Usos up and called them errand boys. And then that's what Jimmy, I believe, got pissed off and fired up because Owens was really winding them up there. And they were trying to take up for themselves that they call their shots and they do their thing. And Jimmy finally says, I am the tribal chief. And Paul shits himself. And then Roman's music hits.
Yeah, then the music guy goes, I better play this.
Yeah, because elsewise, Roman wouldn't have been able to go down there and confront his bloodline. So Roman comes down and throws both the Usos' microphones out of the ring. And Sammy starts talking to Roman, basically telling him that the bloodline's done, it's finished, and it's all your fault, Roman Reigns. And then Kevin suddenly from the blind side kicks Roman and hits him with a stunner. And the Usos get in a 4-way with Sammy and Kevin. And Solo comes in and spikes both of Cammy and Seven. Sammy and Kevin. Or Cammy and Seven.
Cammy and Seven, I like
another
that.
lifetime. And Roman Reigns tears the set up and pitches a fit and spears Sammy. And then now there's all the tag team belts laying in the ring. And so the Usos pick up 2 of the belts each. They've each got 2 of them. And Jay hands his to Solo. And Jimmy won't give his 2 up. And Jay gets them from him and hands them to Roman, but Jimmy doesn't join the celebration. And meanwhile, Owens and Zayn lay there immobile forever because it's not their stage cue to get up and limp off yet. The end. Oh, I'm sorry, I should say, and scene. But it had action, it had interest, it had excitement, more twists and turns and strife in the Bloodline camp. Brian, your thoughts?
I mean, this is what you wait for. This is what you try to get through this whole show for, is the little bits of this. No disrespect to the athleticism and the ability of any of the wrestlers, but on SmackDown, this commercial-heavy show, you're just waiting for any of the drama with the Bloodline. Not even matches. The drama. At this point, they're better than the matches with these guys. They teased Jey Uso problems for weeks. Then they switched it to Jimmy Uso now for weeks, and we'll talk about the pay-per-view in a little while. It's a slow-moving plot, but the moments you get are pretty cool. When Sammy says to Roman, it's over.
Yeah.
And you see Roman's face. I mean, that's one of the more underrated things about him. Forget about him as, I'm the bad.
Reactions.
The reactions when it's not the news he wants. He's really good at that. And he was perfect here because you could tell it is a genuine fear that the Bloodline's blowing up. This is the perfect time to introduce Jacob Fatu. But anyway, the Bloodline's blowing up.
Oh, God damn it.
I thought that was good. They teased the stuff with Jimmy Uso. Again, he was the one. Remember, Jey Uso was the one who had problems with everyone. And Jimmy was the one who.
Yeah.
Jimmy was the one who super kicked Sammy at the Royal Rumble, I think. So they've switched everyone's role in that respect.
That's maybe why I keep having trouble which one's which, because I was like, well, now the one guy was more on the side of that, but nevertheless, it's constantly changing.
What do you think of, and I think they did this, although I think I heard Heyman use it during the pay-per-view. What do you think of them dropping Sikoa and now just calling him Solo?
I think it probably works better because, he's the henchman. He's not going to get, I don't think, focused on as a top singles guy in the world title picture yet. But Solo Sikoa kind of reminds us of the guy from NXT. We all call him Solo anyway, right? So I don't think it's a huge change, but maybe just something else that they can make it easier to talk about him.
He's perfect in his role. I have to say, he's really impressed me. He's so good in his role. I'm not saying like elevate him, making him a main eventer, because I don't think everyone's, it's not everyone's time all the time. But as that guy, as that badass who stands there and says nothing, and when he finally acts, he does damage, he's great. I think he's been doing great.
Yeah, well, actually, I don't want to spoil anything. Spoiler alert. But when we talk about the pay-per-view, I've made note that he's improving. In his matches, he's getting better. He's getting more comfortable. He doesn't seem like he's walking around plodding, kicking, and punching because he's trying to figure out what to do next, like we saw months ago. He's moving along and he's getting more comfortable, it seems like. So, yes, I agree with you.
And that was SmackDown, and this is your show.
Well, I'll just slap you down then.
Oh!
You want to go on to the Night of Champions?
If you'll stop slapping me, yes.
Well, take that and that and some more of this and the other thing